Welcome to Geopolitics in 2026, where even billion-dollar treaties apparently get surprise software updates. And one day is all it took. On July 22nd, the United States and Saudi Arabia signed one of the biggest civilian nuclear agreements in decades. On July 23rd, Donald Trump said this deal only happens if Saudi Arabia recognizes Israel. But wasn't the deal already signed? And did Trump just sabotage his own agreement by putting out this post on Truth Social? First things first, what is this deal? Forget nuclear bombs for a second. This is officially a civilian nuclear agreement, which means electricity, desalination plants, future energy, but not missiles. Saudi Arabia wants nuclear power because oil won't last forever. The kingdom is trying to diversify its economy under Vision 2030. And nuclear energy gives it another source of reliable electricity.
The president himself has spoken on this many times. His Truth Social post this morning, and I will read it for those at home who missed it. The civil nuclear deal, there will be no enrichment of material, an important point being made between the Department of Energy and Saudi Arabia, which pertains only to non-military use.
Under this agreement, American companies would help Saudi Arabia build parts of its civilian nuclear infrastructure over the coming decades. The biggest point to be noted here is that Saudi Arabia could eventually get a uranium enrichment facility with American involvement. Now, why does uranium enrichment matter? Imagine uranium as raw wheat. Enrichment is like processing that wheat into flour. Now, most flour becomes bread. But if you keep refining it enough, it can also become something much more dangerous. Low-enriched uranium powers nuclear reactors. Highly enriched uranium can be used in nuclear weapons. That's why enrichment technology is considered extremely sensitive. Once a country knows how to enrich uranium, the leap from civilian capability to military capability becomes much smaller. So is America giving Saudi Arabia the tools to eventually build a bomb?
Just playing devil's advocate, why does Saudi Arabia get a civilian nuclear deal, but Iran doesn't get a civilian nuclear deal?
Well, again, this agreement is still being worked out. It will eventually, hopefully, be finalized with the condition that the president spoke about this morning. But this agreement in particular, as it's been discussed thus far, does give priority access for American companies in the Saudi nuclear energy program, which will ultimately benefit American industry workers and supply chains. So the deal that has been discussed thus far and will continue to be discussed absolutely puts America first, and that's obviously very important to this president.
A little ironical, given that US intervened in Iran precisely for this reason. Normally, countries signing major nuclear agreements accept extensive inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency, that is, the IAEA. Think of the IAEA as the world's nuclear referee. They inspect facilities, track nuclear material, and verify that countries aren't secretly diverting uranium into weapons programs. Saudi Arabia is a member of the IAEA. But reports suggest this agreement does not automatically require Riyadh to accept the agency's strongest inspection regime, known as the Additional Protocol. Instead, the deal relies heavily on bilateral US oversight and future safeguards that is still being negotiated. That is exactly why non-proliferation experts remain uneasy. The concern isn't that Saudi Arabia is building a bomb today. The concern is what safeguards exist for tomorrow. Now let's bring Israel into the picture. Israel has never officially confirmed possessing nuclear weapons, but it's widely believed to be the Middle East's only nuclear-armed state. Israel exercises aminu, a Hebrew word which means a strict policy of nuclear opacity or nuclear ambiguity, meaning it neither confirms or denies having nuclear weapons. If Israel indeed owns a nuclear arsenal, that gives it a huge strategic advantage. If Saudi Arabia develops its own enrichment capability, even for civilian purposes, Israel worries that balance could eventually change. And here's where the politics becomes even more complicated. Back in 2020, Trump brokered the Abraham Accords. The UAE, Bahrain, and later Morocco agreed to normalize relations with Israel, which was strained over Israel's stance on Palestine.
Look, this is a condition that the president has spoken about many times with our Gulf and Arab allies. He wants to see these countries sign the Abraham Accord. It was one of the most historic accomplishments of his first term, and it continues to be a long-term goal of his to expand those accords to ultimately come to a place where the Middle East can be a peaceful and stable region. And
so what did Israel gain through the Accords? Recognition, trade, flights, investment, and regional legitimacy. Instead of being treated as an outsider, Israel suddenly became an accepted diplomatic partner for several Arab states. And Trump has long wanted Saudi Arabia, the biggest prize, to join that club.
yes, this deal with Saudi Arabia, the energy deal, is contingent on this condition as far as the president is concerned. So we'll continue to talk with our Saudi counterparts to get the deal finalized and hopefully see them joining the Abraham Accords very soon.
Now, Saudi Arabia so far has been consistent on its position on the Abraham Accords. It says no normalization with Israel unless there is a credible path towards a Palestinian state. And after the Gaza war, that position has become even harder to change. Normalizing ties now could trigger enormous domestic, regional, and religious backlash. For Riyadh, this isn't just foreign policy, it's political legitimacy. Which is why many analysts believe Saudi Arabia is unlikely to simply accept Trump's latest condition.
They and others didn't want to do it because of the problem that they had with Iran. You don't have that problem anymore. You don't have a great power there anymore. You have a problem, but the problem is disappearing day by day. They were the bully of the Middle East, and we're not going to be that much of a bully anymore.
And here's the million-dollar question that has everyone confused. Why did Trump suddenly change the rules? The agreement was announced, the deal was signed, officials celebrated. But unfortunately, the ink on the agreement seemed to have dried slower than Trump's Truth Social posts. President Trump went ahead and posted on Truth Social saying the deal only goes ahead if Saudi Arabia joins the Abraham Accords.
Hi, Mr. President. I want to ask about the Saudi nuclear deal. This man over your shoulder announces a big deal after 18 months of negotiating with the Saudis. Seems like it's all done, it's signed, and then you come out, throw some new conditions on top of it, the whole thing blows up. So did he get out ahead of you, or what happened there?
No, nobody got out ahead. I mean, I just say that in order to do it, they have to be a member of the Abraham Accords, which have been very successful.
Now, according to multiple US media reports, Trump was reportedly unhappy with how the announcement unfolded and also faced criticism from conservative voices questioning why Saudi Arabia was getting nuclear cooperation without recognizing Israel. Hence, Trump did what Trump often does. He moved the goalpost after the match had already started to reclaim political ownership.
Mr. President, did you authorize for Secretary Wright to sign the Saudi nuclear deal? If not, why did he sign it?
Well, we didn't talk about it, but it was always understood, and Chris knew, and Saudi Arabia knew, that if they didn't join the Abraham Accords, the deal's not, I'm not going to do the deal.
Even though both sides have signed the agreement, it still has to move through the US legal process, including congressional review, licensing, and implementation. And that means Washington still has leverage. Trump can influence whether parts of the agreement actually move forward. So where does that leave everyone then? Saudi Arabia wants nuclear technology. Israel wants normalization. Trump wants both. But right now, none of the three has exactly what it wants. And unless one side blinks, the biggest nuclear agreement in years could end up becoming another geopolitical bargaining chip. This is Shivangi Mukherjee for India Abroad.